Not in the horror genre. This is bullshit.
Beyond boo, loyal listeners.
What?
This is Midnight Masterminds. And this is our Halloween episode. So I did a boo pun.
Just in time.
Oh. Hello, I'm Kitt. That's Tyler, who's cackling.
Hi.
And
I'm Taylor. This is what I sound like.
Yep.
Yep.
Hello, welcome.
So, this is a fun little bonus little episode that we're going to do because since the last episode, about 152 movies came out and we got behind. So, we're doing a big old recording sometime this week and we're going to release that episode with reviews for Jojo Rabbit, Parasite, The Lighthouse, Zombieland, Double Tap, Addams Family, and maybe something else.
Like Maleficent.
If we find the time. But this episode is actually about our favorite horror movies.
So.
And that kind of thing. So no reviews this time. Well.
Kind of.
Update reviews. We'll do retro reviews. And just kind of in general talk about our relationship with the horror genre and being spoopled in general.
If you're easily spoopled, please click away.
No, there's not going to be any scares. Why do you got to... Boo!
See what I'm talking about?
Someone just crashed their car because of you.
I know.
I'm looking at the levels. That maxed out.
Yeah.
That's going to blow out their speakers.
I'm not editing it. I'm not editing it.
All right.
You can't make me.
You have to do a match loudness performance in order.
Nope. Not even going to do that.
There's standards.
Nope. No standards. Not on this podcast.
The Obama administration
created my God, Taylor.
TV standards for commercials. You can't do this.
Kit, what happened last time you kept putting your anti-fidget putty all over my body?
Nothing.
Now there's body hair in it. It's the most disgusting putty in the world.
Yeah.
It's not that gross. I only pulled out a couple hairs. Speaking of gross. Taylor. I bet that easily spoopled somebody.
No, Taylor just almost threw up, that's all.
Oh.
All right, who wants to start?
Are we talking about...
Just whatever you want, man.
All right, well, I'd like to start with something a little light.
Okay.
Dear listener, if you were 10 to 14 years old in the years between 2004 and 2007, and you enjoyed watching Nickelodeon during the Halloween season, then you may vaguely remember a television program entitled Scaredy Camp. What is Scaredy Camp? Scaredy Camp is a game show unlike any other you've seen before, incorporating the ideas behind Double Dare, Survivor, and the Blair Witch Project.
Oh my God.
And you may be thinking, Taylor, that sounds ridiculous. You can't combine those things. Oh, well, idiot. How about you watch the dang thing? Because they did it. It was beautiful. What is Scaredy Camp? It takes place over 5 days.
Uh-huh.
During the day, 2 teams comprising of the red team, the boys, and the girls team, the blues. I messed that up.
You're doing great, Taylor.
Yeah,
keep it
going,
up.
man.
Keep it up.
During the day, they perform challenges, which are kind of boring. And it's like, go to the bottom of this pool and find the key.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then the first team to do that wins.
Dun, dun, dun.
And honestly, that part's kind of boring. It's very Double Dare. If
Yeah.
you've seen Double Dare, you've seen this. If you've
Got
seen
it.
Survivor, you've seen this. Where the show stands out is at nighttime, when they have to... They do these similar challenges, but at night at this campground. And the idea is that they're trying to find out what happened to this kid that died there. Like, it gets dark.
Dang.
Like, a kid drowned.
Dang.
in the reservoir.
Farge.
And they're trying to figure out why and why his spirit still haunts the campground to this very day, wherever water is near.
Oh.
So,
throws water bottle across the room.
It is hosted by the daughter of the woman who did the You Are the Weakest Link Goodbye.
What?
You Are the Weakest Link? Remember that show?
No.
You don't guys remember Weakest?
Nope.
Okay. Well...
Sorry, man. I wasn't a Nickelodeon boy.
This wasn't a Nickelodeon program. This was primetime television.
I wasn't a primetime television boy either.
You guys don't know who You Are the Weakest Link. Goodbye.
I didn't have cable till I was like
This was
11.
a network. Okay. Well, regardless, she's a good host. She really sets the atmosphere.
Sorry, Taylor.
Man, freaking generational differences, am I right?
You're what?
I guess I was just 8 before you guys were 8.
You were 2 years older than me. That is it.
Well, when was the program canceled? Anyways.
Oh, right.
So, I believe the kid's name is Dennis Williams. I might be wrong about that.
Okay.
I watched the series last week, and his name was Dennis for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the show has these creepy vignettes of where she's talking about, this is what we know about Dennis. On the last night he was alive, he ran out of his cabin down to the lake. His body was found in the reservoir, and nobody knows why.
Damn.
And these kids have to figure out what happened, and the first one to figure it out through these clues and nighttime challenges wins.
Okay.
And from what I understand, the daytime challenges are there to give you, like, extra clues at night. The team that wins the day challenge gets to do the night challenge.
Oh, okay.
So they have more clues to figure out what happened at the end. Spoiler alert, the boys' team sucks. They don't do well. The girls' team really pulls it together. So at night, they like legit, they're around the campfire and they tell them kind of a vague idea of what's going to happen. And then they say, you're about to be blindfolded and taken to separate destinations by yourself. And they're in this cabin, like the first night, girl is like in this bathroom. It's pitch black.
Okay.
She's
horrible.
blindfolded, and then over her radio it just says, blue team, take off your blindfold and begin. And she takes it off, and she just has to figure out what the clue is and where to go from there.
That's awesome.
And at one point, there's a voice in the bathroom, and she freaks out and runs out. She's like, there's somebody in there. There's somebody in there. Because there are, like, camera guys. The camera guys say nothing to her. And then over her radio, it says, blue team, return to the bathroom and complete the challenge. And she just goes like,
oh my
and like goes back in.
Jesus.
At one point, she finds out the clue, goes to the next location. And the clues are cool, too. Like, this, she's in the bathroom. And her first clue is like he scrawled something on the... There's a note on the paper roll that she has to unfurl in order to read it.
Gotcha.
And it says, like, turn on the hot water and then look at your reflection or something along those lines. And it's, like, written spooky. And then, like, there's a message in the mirror that when the fog comes up, it's in the mirror to go to this certain bunk. And that's where the second girl is.
Whoa.
And then they have to do a thing. And at that one, it's like, there's this bathtub full of, like, it's muck. And, like, they have to unplug it, and the next clue is in the bath. Like, it's brutal. It's insane. And it scared me so much as a kid. So, spoiler alert for this program that's 10 years old, and the rip on YouTube has, like, 20,000 views in the last 5 years. All the comments, by the way, are like, thank you so much for putting this up. I've been trying so hard to find this. There's a cult following for this thing of kids who vaguely remember watching it on Nickelodeon between 2004 and 2007 after they finished trick-or-treating.
Getting their wits scared out of them.
So what happened is Dennis Williams, he had an identical brother who... everyone thought it was Dennis who drowned. It was actually his identical brother.
Oh.
But what happened was that the night of, some kids stole his pet frog that he kept in a box under his bunk.
Huh.
And they were going to, like, kill it at the lake. And he ran down there, and they ended up, like, he was chasing them, and they threw the frog into the water reservoir. His brother didn't know how to swim, but still jumped in after the frog and drowned in the water reservoir. That was the mystery they were trying to solve.
That's horrible.
Right? And here's the thing. I didn't watch season 2, but I read a synopsis about it. Season 2, the mystery is about a woman. They don't say it, but it's strongly implied she, like, slits her wrists in her kitchen to kill herself.
Oh my god!
Like, this is on Nickelodeon.
Jesus!
During their, like, I believe it was called the Nick or Treat.
Nick
block.
or Treat.
And they were like, it's time for Nick or Treats. And, like, and then it's like, Scaredy Camp is on. And it's like, you must figure out. And, like, it's all, like, black and white. It looks like, have you guys seen Survivor Man?
Mm-hmm.
No.
How he's got, like, that camera.
Yeah, the night vision.
It's like that.
Oh,
It's night vision. And it's like these, it looks like the Blair Witch Project, like legit. And it's actually a legitimately interesting show to watch outside of the daytime challenges, which are very cookie cutter and kind of boring. I recommend it. Here's the thing. I'd recommend watching like the first episode and then the last episode because they really drag things out the medium area.
Oh, okay.
Because they had to fill 5 episodes, and honestly, they had about 2 episodes worth of content.
Gotcha.
It's very interesting, though, and it's something I vaguely remembered as a kid really liking, and going back and rewatching it was really a treat. And if you're listening to this and you're like, I kind of remember that too, it's called Scaredy Camp, and if you go to YouTube and look it up, it'll come up. I had to do about 20 searches where I was like, Scary Nickelodeon Show 2005.
Jesus. Okay.
And then I just got a Wikipedia article of all the original Nickelodeon horror genre. And a lot of stuff about, like, Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Speaking of, I was going to bring it up. They're bringing that back, and it looks like it's actually quite...
We'll see.
Spoopy.
We'll see.
What are they bringing back?
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Because there's advertising companies that are very good at getting eyes on a product.
That's true. That is very true.
That's true.
So we'll see. Is it on Nickelodeon still?
Yeah.
See, my worry is that Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark hit this perfect medium ground of not being like a gore fest where it was like too rated R, where it kind of starts losing. There's this perfect middle ground for horror where it's like, it's not too like in your face, gotcha. It's what worked with Blair Witch Project, the original one.
Or The Conjuring.
Or
Insidious.
The first Paranormal Activity.
Yes.
Where
all movies will cover, by the way.
It's this perfect middle ground of not being overly obvious with this horror. The Witch. The Lighthouse, to be a more recent example. They're not in your face about it, but it's kind of this...
They're eerie and...
It lets you... your mind is what's creating the horror, because what you're imagining could be happening is scarier than anything they can actually show you. Over the Garden Wall, the beast is very like he's in the background. At the end, you get a money shot, but they do such a good job of building up this idea. You don't know what it is. Not knowing is scarier than seeing. Which is a scary monster.
That's why the implied horror is so much worse than it's funny because you were showing us what the Tooth Fairy looked like in the
movie Darkness Falls. I think it was like 2003. It's a garbage movie. Don't bother watching it. But it was one of the first rated R we're gonna get ya kind of movies, and it scared me a lot as a kid. And looking back on it now, it looks dumb.
But a big problem with that, and I haven't seen it, I just saw the bits that Taylor was showing us, and
honestly, that's all you need to see.
It wasn't scary because the whole thing, The Conjuring is terrifying because there are horrifying things and images and imagery, but you don't really get to spend that much time actually looking at any of it.
Yes, it's
that bit where it pans up and the creepo is on the top of the wardrobe. The bit where Mama's looking down the basement and then the hands next to her head. Bits where you see just feet dangling behind someone. You know what I mean?
Not to say if you there's your Friday the 13th style movies. Sure. Have fun, man. But it's not.
Those are though Friday the 13th and Scream and Halloween and
those are kind of their own genre.
Their slasher films are different than just out and about horror films.
Right.
They're a subcategory for sure.
Yeah.
But a slasher film is very specifically that. It's a slasher film.
Right.
You see it for the kills.
Or zombie movies is another.
Yeah.
I'm not that into zombie films myself. Just because it's too.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been scared by a zombie film.
Really?
Like literally.
What about any movies, The Haunted Mansion? Huh?
Okay, well, don't bring that up because I'm gonna start crying.
I actually really like that movie.
I actually
and we'll
also
get
really
into
like
we'll
that
get
movie.
into what I consider spoopy movies.
Right.
A little later. That's my I think favorite subgenre of horror themed things. I did air quotes just then.
And
It's
honestly,
spooky.
Scaredy Camp I think falls closer to the spoopy genre
yeah.
than like it's definitely not on the. If you liked Blair Witch Project, I wouldn't be like, well, next you got to check out Scaredy Camp, the Nickelodeon game show that plays sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's like a good middle ground between spoopy and Blair Witch style,
Okay.
like found footage horror.
And I it's one thing that I really appreciate about horror movies when they go for it is the implied horror or background horror or blink and you'll miss it horror.
Haunting on Hill House.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Was so good at this.
Yeah.
But it also earned all of its jump scares too.
Yeah.
Which was
I've never
Jump-
seen it.
Jump scares can be
you should look at it
yeah.
with your eyes.
You'll probably you'll probably have a hard time though.
Really?
Kit doesn't do well with scary things.
It is pretty scary.
It's pretty
but
horrifying.
It's so good. And
Very
it's
good.
honestly, I remember thinking like this all together is like 10 hours long. I remember thinking like, I don't know if I could stick around, but it's actually got a very nice story and a surprisingly like happy ending.
Uplifting
like,
ending, yeah.
I was not expecting.
Which is, now this is probably just personal preference, but those are my favorite horror things.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to end like all hokey-dory, because then it feels like everything was pointless.
But like everyone
like,
has
there was no
such a
real-
good arc, and I'm so happy for all of them.
Exactly. You want your main characters to go through it. But if they go through it and they change, hero's journey law kind of dictates that they should have a happy ending.
And it's like all six of, is it 6, 5?
I think it's 6.
They all have such a good arc where I'm like, I'm so proud of each of you for different reasons.
Aw, that's cool.
And it's not something I was expecting from Spooky House on the Hill movie.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's one of my favorite horror. I don't want to call it a film.
That's a series.
It's my favorite horror series.
Oh.
Unless you're gonna consider, what is it? Chernobyl, the HBO series. That's kind of a different kind of horror.
Yeah,
It was very good. But I wouldn't-
Things can have horror elements, but I don't know if I would call that one a
It felt
horror.
more like a drama, but
Yeah.
with horror
Yes, it
elements.
did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
It was very good though. But
It was really
Things can be horrifying to watch.
Right.
Like a good example is, as we'll get into, is Jojo Rabbit. There are a few moments in that are
God.
horrifying.
Right.
But the movie itself is definitely a comedy. 100%.
It's a comedy that reminds you of what the horrors of dehumanizing others.
Yes.
Yeah, which was really well. We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But just to give an example of what I meant by like implied horror or like background horror, is one of my favorite things to play with is like scares that are not in your face. They punch you in the gut with that tingly feeling, and then you think about it, but it didn't. There was no loud noise. There was no focused camera camera angle.
Right.
Like the shot of the pan up in The Conjuring or in Insidious when she's walking back from doing her laundry and the little boy is standing
my God.
face against the wall, or in
We had
Hill
to
House.
rewind that like 4 times for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
We were
see
watching
it.
that a couple weeks ago, and we were like, Taylor and I looked at each other like, ooh, and Kit's like, what? And I was like, all right, I'm gonna rewind it again, and I'll let you just find it for yourself.
No, it's funny though. I remember watching that
4 times.
I remember watching that in the theaters and being like, oh, I must be mistaken because they didn't do anything with that kid. That must have been like a coat. Like I think I was the opposite of Kitt, where I was like, I saw it, but I think I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite because it makes you question everything that you
Right.
think you saw.
It's gaslighting the audience.
A little bit, yeah. But like in Hill House, there's, I think, not every shot or every scene, but very, very, very often there are ghosts
Just
and specters
around,
and
yeah.
spirits in the background of every single shot.
I really gotta
Well,
watch
not
that.
Every single shot, but like quite often
Yeah.
there'll be
To the
ghosts.
point where there's YouTube compilations of all
Yes.
the background ghosts in Haunting of Hill House
That you
and
just-
that
that
are like
you-
20 minutes long.
Yeah, that you just missed.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff because
And-
that's so much creepier to me.
Right.
So here's a brain teaser, I guess. What is the most memorable scare for you in a movie? Mine is twofold. It's either the it's both from The Conjuring. It's either the bit where the sheet blows off the line and catches on a ghost standing right next to her,
Right.
or it's when you hear creaking and Patrick Wilson turns around and the corpse's feet from the lady who hung herself are dangling behind his head. Either of those two are the biggest scares for me. I think.
That's such a cool effect they pulled off. I still am not 100%
I have
sure
no idea how they did that.
Unless it was just straight CG.
I believe it. I believe that. I don't know, man.
People have done crazier things with that. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, that's got to be a CG effect.
Yeah.
Unless the guy just like dropped to his knees very quickly. If I found out that was a practical effect, I would be blown away.
And scared. They got a real ghost.
They got a real ghost. Yeah, I wasn't a good actor when I was alive, but there's a lot of work out there for
they say take advantage of you. There's guys that take roles as pirates because they're missing a hand. A lot
of people think just because you're dead, you can't work no more.
Yeah.
Lazy is what it is.
Yeah, turns out.
I don't know what the most memorable scare for me is, because I this is like the worst podcast for me to do because I haven't seen a lot of movies, but I've also seen less like horror movies.
Yeah, you're just here to fidget with Putty.
I'm just here to fidget with Putty and laugh at other people's jokes. And
Well, I'm going to give 2 as well.
Okay.
And I know I said this earlier that it's a bad movie, but in the film Darkness Falls, the scene where there's this scene in the movie where there's like 5 people who have seen the Tooth Fairy's face, and so the premise is if you see the Tooth Fairy's face, she's gonna come kill you. But there's this part where they're in this factory and there's a sliver of light coming through the window, and they're all standing in it, but the moon is moving, so the light is getting smaller and smaller, and they're all trying to stay in it, and one by one, the Tooth Fairy's coming and picking them off as soon as they get into the dark part. And that fucked with me a lot when I was a kid. I couldn't handle it. I was too young to watch this movie, thanks Mom. And then the other one is in Insidious, when it's pure daytime and out of nowhere the monster's behind that guy when they're talking to that one was like, no, it was daytime. You broke the rule. You guys can't do this.
That one's a really affecting.
You messed it up.
That's a good example of an earned quality jump scare.
Because it is completely like nobody was expecting that when that movie came out.
Exactly.
That one broke all the. It's supposed to be like I remember going into horror films when I was younger and being like, oh, it's daytime. We're good for a little bit again.
Yeah. And that's when it had a big scare had kind of just happened, so it was in one of the scenes that's meant to be a reprieve.
There's nothing in that movie leading up to that makes you think. There's no build up. It's just
there.
Punchline.
It's just there.
Yeah, it's brutal. That one changed the idea of what a horror film could be to me. That movie revolutionized a lot of things.
Yeah. So there's another thing. Do you want to just get into our favorites?
Ever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I have a few that I want to talk about.
All right.
Kit, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Since you haven't been talking much?
Don't want to go for sure. So I've had a hard time because, like I said, I haven't seen a lot of horror movies. I had a hard time trying to think and pick out which ones that I was the most fond of, considering the list is so small. But I think maybe my number one, which isn't actually horror, is Tucker and Dale, just because
that's horror. It's a comedy slasher film.
There are moments where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
There are plenty of moments where I was like, oh my god, So I consider it still horror, but it's alternate because it is so humorous and it is.
Letterboxd, it's in the horror genre.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, I think it's fantastic. I think it's highly underrated. I feel like not a lot of people know about it. Like, you guys are some of the only people who I've been like, you guys seen Tucker and Dale? You guys are like, yeah, I love that movie. So
yeah, it's pretty good.
It's really funny. It is really well done. It's so quotable. And
oh, goddamn, his bowling fingers.
It's touching. And at the end, there's this really wacky twist where you're like, oh my god. Like, there's this whole subplot of sinister that builds to a really great ending in a movie that you think is going to be horrifying, and then you find out is a comedy in the end pulls around and actually becomes pretty scary.
And it's fun that it flips the stereotype on its head that, like, the good guys are rednecks and the bad guys are horny teens.
Yes, right.
Like, that one's real good.
Yeah.
We got your friend. They got it. Where are you going?
Just hooked himself into wood chipper.
This kid just hocked himself.
I love that movie because you could show it. Like, I remember my one of my stepbrothers doesn't do well with horror at all. Hates horror. Will, like, turn the TV channel if a trailer for a horror film comes on.
Oh my god.
Cannot stand horror films.
Oh my god.
And he loved that movie. It's like
great.
the perfect level. Like, it's not something that's... The horror elements in it won't give you nightmares by any means.
No.
But
No,
it's
no.
enough that you can, like, still call it a horror movie.
Sure.
It's like this perfect middle ground of it's poking fun at it, but it won't ruin your night.
There's plenty of real jump scares. There's plenty of real, like, creep factor. There's a lot of suspense, especially in the beginning, where you're trying to figure out what's going on and you're trying to figure out who's actually the bad guy.
And it's also hilarious.
But it's also hilarious.
Yeah.
So you get breaks,
Yeah.
which is why I think I like it. Because, like Tyler said, I don't do very well with spooky things.
Great spiritual successor to Shaun of the Dead, which I think we've said on this podcast before.
It's the American Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really good. I highly recommend it. Check it out. It's really funny.
That one's great.
Yeah.
I tend to agree that, like, I really don't like mean-spirited horror.
Yeah.
You know? Like...
Oh, well, you deserve this because you're a dumb
to an extent, all horror is a little mean-spirited because there's a guy killing people.
Yep.
But, like, I wouldn't call The Conjuring mean-spirited because in the end, a family is brought together and they save the day.
And the spirits get to go to light.
And there's a bad guy, and sure, but it's not just, let's watch a bunch of people get killed in brutal ways. Like Saw, those movies are just...
Well, the first one kind of had an interesting... And the first one was interesting. They ruined the entire series as soon as they started making sequels.
From Saw 2 on, that series just plummeted into detritus.
I was 100% into Saw. I would go to them every year, and even... I went and saw every single one in theaters up till Saw 5, and 12-year-old me was like, this is ridiculous and dumb. That was hard to get 12-year-old me to admit anything was ridiculous and dumb. I loved the dumbest things, and I thought it was ridiculous and dumb.
I thought Wild Hogs was my favorite movie for a couple of years.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
I loved Wild Hogs. I loved...
The Pink Panther with Steve Martin.
Yeah. Click by the Adam Sandler.
Oh my god.
That one's good though. That one is actually still good though.
I'm the Angel of Death. Like, come on, are you serious? It's the dumbest fucking twist ever. Out of nowhere.
I will admit it's been a while, but
honestly, most Adam Sandler movies I loved. Adam Sandler, I think, his primary demographic is 12-year-olds and former 12-year-olds.
Yes.
Who are still 12-year-olds at heart.
I will say, he is the best thing about every single thing that he does, but he's too loyal to his friends.
And honestly, it's a bummer to see movies he's good in.
Yeah.
Your Punch Drunk Loves.
Yes.
And that new movie's coming out.
Oh my god, I know.
Uncut Gems. He looks really good in that.
It looks like he's trying, and that's all I want from Adam Sandler, is for him to try.
And stop making movies because he feels like he owes David Spade.
You ever notice in those movies where he just employs all of his friends, he looks bored.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
up with that?
He knows that he's, I think deep down he knows he's the funniest and best out of all of them, but feels bad leaving them behind to do the movies that he knows he could do.
Right.
Because then they'll all, you know what I mean? It's like, it's similar to his, it's why I think, like, Grown Ups is actually kind of a sad movie. Because his character is that way, too. Like, his character is successful, has a pretty wife, bunch of good kids, has a job he loves.
Gets peed on by a deer.
And then, yeah, well, that's the second one. But the first one...
Come on, I'm really going to differentiate.
Yes, yes, I am. But in the first one, it's like, you know, Kevin James, he's poor, and he needs help to get a new car, and David Spade's a fucking sleazeball, and... You know what I mean? Like, Rob Schneider needs fucking help. You know what I mean?
Did Adam Sandler write the film?
I believe he did.
That's kind of...
That's what I'm saying. So it's like...
Imagine, like, you get asked, like, be in this movie. It's like, okay, what's my character? Oh, well, you're like this guy that mooches off of me, and, like, you suck, and you're poor, and you can't do anything good on your own, so you're always hanging out with me.
Oh
right. Yeah. I mean, I can't say no.
I mean, Kevin James, like, exclusively does Happy Madison
Movies
and
that-
Happy Madison adjacent films.
Well, the worst version of what Chris Farley would be doing if he was still alive.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's Kevin James' whole career.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And I think he's a great guy. But
He was alright in The King of Queens.
yeah. But anyway, I don't want to get into, because that's not what we're talking about.
It's not horror.
Right.
No.
We're not
But,
talking about horror.
Like something like Scream
Mhm.
is like right in my ballpark for horror movies, because it's got all the like slasher elements. It's funny.
Right.
It's got great performances. It's spoopy, but it's not like, and it whatever. It's not mean spirited. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there are people who die that you're like, I wish they didn't die. But that's just kind of a good movie making.
Yeah.
And then like Halloween also. It's like
Halloween's just like it perfectly exemplifies 80s slasher.
it was like one of the first ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to be like
Sure.
dumb slasher movie.
Yeah.
It's one of the problems with like it's like going back and looking at something that started a trend that had been done to death.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it's not the movie's fault that it got copied to hell and I've seen all the copies and now I don't like this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I feel like Halloween and your
That's how, and it's sad. It's kind of
Friday
hard to
the
watch the
13th
first one anymore.
all fall into that category of like, well, I've seen this copied so many times that this doesn't feel interesting anymore.
Yeah, no, that is kind of sad, because it is they started it, so it's
Right.
not their fault. But I will say this: I really think most of the Friday the 13th movies are very overrated.
Sure.
Even
It's
even
meant
in
for
the
a-
context of what it was.
It's meant for a type of person.
Yeah, but something like, and ditto for most of the Halloween movies. Like Halloween 1 is great, Halloween 2 is good, and then they're all kind of not great until H20.
I'm not sure what you're referencing there.
Halloween.
20?
What?
It's not.
They make 20 of those movies?
No,
Okay.
but
God.
I don't.
Wait, Friday the 20th? A
H-
week later?
H2O. It's like, I think it was the 20-year anniversary of the first one. And they
Yeah.
released another one, and it had people in it. It was pretty good. But I really liked the sequel that they made in 2018.
I never saw it.
It was I really liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
Mm.
But yeah, for my horror, I can be scared, and it can be scary the whole time, but there needs to be some lightness in there somewhere. Because I feel like if it's just miserable the whole time, I will not enjoy myself.
Right.
And I do feel like the like you need to enjoy yourself with movies like them.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to have fun in a movie.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
and then so like Cabin in the Woods is my favorite horror movie
Ever.
ever.
Oh, okay.
It's yeah, like it's because it's so funny. It's got a great twist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a amazing subversion of like expectations in the
Yeah.
genre, while also like being as big a fan of what it's spoofing
Mm-hmm.
as it could be.
It's really
Like a
unique. It's
Yeah.
a really
labor of
original
love.
idea.
Yes, yeah, and then it has one of my favorite scenes in cinema history. I cackled like a lunatic.
With what?
The System Purge sequence.
Oh,
Oh.
Legitimately cackled like
Yeah.
a lunatic when that was happening.
That was
we were in the
fantastic.
theater, and I did my guttural laugh.
I know you're gonna
You
laugh.
know,
busted out now.
no, you'll have to make me laugh. I can't do
Hey,
it on
why the
command.
chicken cross the road?
Why?
Get to the other side, you dingus. That's me. I'm Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh boy. Tyler,
Sorry.
have you ever seen Arachnophobia, the 1990 film?
Deliberately no.
Deliberately
I
no.
can't handle.
Because
I
you're
don't
afraid
like
of spiders.
Yeah, I
Listen.
don't like that one. And then what was it? Scary Clowns from Outer Space or whatever.
Yeah.
That's got Christopher Titus in it, who's one of my favorite comedians.
And you've never seen
And
it?
I've never seen it because clowns freak me the fuck out.
Well, listen to this. You know I don't like spiders. You know, the one time we saw a spider in your room, you had to kill it because I was like, ah!
Mhm.
But I saw Arachnophobia against my will, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought it was such a good movie. It spooks you because it takes advantage of all the things that people who don't like spiders freak out about. But it's not overdone. It's not over the top. It's funny. It's fun. It's that same, like 1980, 1990 style of movie that I have, like, very close
Does that
to my
have John
heart.
Goodman in it?
Does it have John Goodman in it?
I
I can't remember. It has, who's that one guy?
You can push the button at the top that says cast.
Button on the top says cast. It's got Jeff Daniels and John Goodman.
Yeah.
It sure does. Harley Jane, Kozak, Julian Sands, Brian McNamara. I don't know any of these people besides the first two that I mentioned. Anyway, it's great. It's really fun, and although there's spiders in it, I think you'll like it. What?
Is that the one with the giant spiders, or am I thinking
No, it's
else?
not giant spiders. That's the one that's from like way back in the day. That's black and white. That Lilo and Stitch watch.
Them?
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure what I'm thinking of.
But I think you'll like it because in this movie, spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, even though it came out in 1990.
If you wanted to see it, you had your chance.
Oh wait, do you care about spoilers?
No.
Not at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Arachnophobia.
I think you'll like it because although it's like about spiders and it's about like a spider that comes from a different country that gets brought here and starts breeding with other spiders and making more spiders, and it's just a lot of spiders is the whole plot.
Did you say spider one more time? I'm canceling the podcast.
Wait, is it like a...
This guy, his house, he burns to the ground because it's covered in spiders.
All right, we're done.
And
she
he's
said it
stuck,
again. We're done, guys.
And he's stuck in the basement fighting a giant spider. And the entire time, he's like, being like, I'm gonna get you. I gotta get you. Oh, God, okay, I'm gonna get you. Like, that kind of a thing. And I feel like, knowing you and having seen that movie, you are the main character. And that's exactly what you would be doing.
How big are the spiders in this film?
So the spiders are regular, but there's one giant spider that's, like, tarantula-sized.
Oh.
That...
I was expecting, like,
and he
small
hates it.
dog size.
No, that's what I love about it, is that it's not over the top
Aren't
like
there
that.
spiders that are that big?
No.
I think the biggest spider in the world is like 12 inches long.
The biggest spider is a camel spider, and it doesn't look like a traditional spider, but I will show you a photo, and you'll pee your pants, so just be prepared.
Yeah, I don't like big
Joke's on
spiders.
you, I'm
And
wearing my
do you know
diapers
anything
today.
about camel spiders?
No.
So camel spiders are mainly from like Iraq and stuff, and soldiers who go out there say they get their wits scared out of them because the camel spiders will come out of the sand, right? And because it's so hot outside, they'll hang out in your shadow and they'll chase you because you try to get away from them, but they want to hang out in your shadow because it's cooler.
I hate that.
So they follow you.
I would hate that.
Let me try and
I
find
would
a
ask
picture.
to get shipped to Antarctica to avoid that kind of
Oh
thing.
my god.
Camel spiders.
Is that somebody holding it?
That's someone holding a camel spider.
Uh,
So for you guys
Too
out there, it truly is like, I think if you like went from longest limb to longest limb, it'd be like a foot long. They're giant spiders. They overcome people's hands.
oh, they're holding them.
This is a small one in comparison.
So are they like not... They won't hurt you?
No, they're very gentle. They eat
Oh.
they eat like dung beetles and birds and stuff, but they
Okay.
won't hurt you. I
Birds.
don't think that they're
Wait, did you say birds?
She said birds.
I did. Well, like if like roadrunners and shit. I don't know.
Birds.
What?
All right.
Spiders aren't supposed to eat birds. They're supposed to eat flies.
Plenty of spiders eat birds.
Birds are too big. Birds are for alligators.
I think there's like a bird-eating
Cats.
spider. I'm pretty sure there's like a bird-eating spider. Bird-eating spider, the Goliath bird-eater. There's like spiders that eat birds, guys. They make big webs.
But I thought birds ate spiders.
See, check that out. That's like for everyone listening, it's a
that's
big,
too
fat
big.
fucking tarantula.
It's too big.
It looks like a small cat.
So anyway, another one of my favorite horror movies is a movie called Trick or Treat.
I think I've seen the cover for this at Blockbuster when I was a kid, but go ahead.
It's really fun. You ever see Valentine's Day? The
No.
movie that had Ashton Kutcher in it? Or how about Love Actually?
No.
Okay. You know those like anthology movies where it's a bunch of different stories all taking place on the same night?
Oh, like New Year's Eve.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, Taylor.
That's too big.
Yeah, that's too big.
I'm sorry, I'm showing more
It
pictures
feels
of spiders.
photoshopped.
Yeah.
But a part of me is like, it's probably not.
This
Wait,
is a spider
show
eating a
me.
bird.
Oh, that's brutal.
Why you gotta ruin my whole day?
We're talking about scary things.
True.
And you had to ruin my whole day?
And she did talk
I
about
love you.
arachnophobia.
I did talk about arachnophobia.
I'm bothered.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Trick or Treat is like Valentine's Day or Love Actually or New Year's Eve. Those
Oh.
movies. where it's a bunch of like spoopy tales that like interact and cross over one another.
Yeah.
You know, and it's pretty solid. That one's a lot of fun, and that one kind of tips its nipples into like spoopy territory. You know what I mean?
So does that mean it's mostly spoopy territory?
No, it tips its nipples in. So it's like...
Okay, so like when I'm thinking that, I'm thinking...
Okay.
I'm currently...
Toe taps then.
75% in the water.
I was imagining literally just poking your nipple into the water.
Like what? You're planking off the side of a pool?
Yeah, and you just tip your nipple into the water, yeah.
Some people would say toe, but sure.
Well, my nipples are more sensitive than my toes, so it's a better...
Guys.
It's a better gauge of temperature.
Guys. Can we...
For water?
Any of you seen Alien?
We'll get to you. But yeah, Trick or Treat's really good, and you should watch it if you haven't.
My favorite horror film is Silence of the Lambs.
Is it?
Of course it is.
What's wrong with that?
I love cannibals. What can I say?
Taylor. It is quite good.
My favorite line in the film is, "Wait, was she a great big fat person?"
Taylor.
It puts the lotion on the skin.
Put the lotion in the fucking basket! It's a great film. I love it.
It
And
is.
it's scary at the end because now, what's his name is on the loose.
It is truly
The
frightening.
goose is loose.
Lecturable handed.
The goose is loose.
Yep.
Because he's goosenecked. I love that movie. The scene where she's in the dark and the guy has the, what's his name, Buffalo Bill?
Yeah.
Has the night vision goggles on and he's like right in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
Was one of the greatest moments in cinematic history I've ever seen. And I read that they didn't have the capability to actually shoot that in night vision.
Okay.
So the actress had to like, it was lit, but she had to act like she was in pure darkness, and she does a great job because I would
Whoa.
have never guessed. So
Whoa.
like that thing
That
where
is
like
really
her
cool.
eyes are defocused and she's like feeling around.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a hard thing to do unless you're actually doing it.
Whoa.
And it was done so well that I would have never thought she actually couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
And from that, let's transition into what's the worst horror movie you've ever seen?
Countdown, which just came out.
Okay.
It's dumb.
Okay.
It's the worst thing a movie can be. It's dumb and boring and not scary. I laughed at some of the scares. There's this scare in the beginning. For people who don't know the premise of this film, you download an app that says when you're going to die, and then it happens.
And?
That's it. And Tom Segura is in it. He's honestly the only reason this movie got a 2 out of 10 and not a 1 out
Are
of 10.
you serious?
Yeah.
Is he like play a funny boy?
Yeah.
He plays a funny man?
He plays the IT guy that goes into the code and gives the 3 main characters, including himself, like 30 extra years.
Great.
And he's actually he's the most interesting part of the film. But the best scare, in what I mean is the one that made me laugh, is there's this scene where this guy is in the stairwell and oh no, he can't get back into the hospital, and now all the lights shut off, and he looks at his phone, he's only got like 20 ding dang seconds left on the app, and oh boy, this is a bad spot to be in. Why didn't I stay in the lobby? And he looks up and he sees his dead girlfriend, who he was beating himself up for because he's like, she was supposed to die in the car accident I was in, which is why he's in the hospital. But she got out of the car, so it literally wasn't his fault. Which I was like, why are you mad at yourself? You didn't do anything. She got out of the car and got killed separately. Like, and he's like, I think it was my fault. And I'm like, in what world, man? Anyways, he looks up, he sees his dead girlfriend, and she looks spooky. And then he's like, ah! And then it's clearly a shot where they had her walk down the stairs and then sped it up to look scarier. But what made me laugh is she uses the handrails.
Oh my god.
She's using the handrails as she's walking down.
Well, at least she's a careful ghost.
It was so dumb. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, like, oh, safety first.
Yeah.
You're about to...
There's nothing scarier than avoidable accidents.
Yeah, OSHA.
Guys.
This ghost is OSHA certified.
Guys.
Dumb movie. It was boring. Outside of like your, there's movies that are so bad because you could tell no one's trying. This one sucked because people were trying.
Aww. There's way too many movies for me to be.
That's horror movies are such a magnet for garbage films.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say actually is there's so many movies that I love that I want to talk about that I'm just not gonna get to, like John Carpenter's Thing,
Creep.
It. Both.
I liked Creep.
Yeah, that was good.
It's Jump Scare City, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's chapters 1 and 2.
Fantastic.
What's it called? Shit. Suspiria. Both the original and the remake.
I've heard they're very good.
Both of them fantastic. The Witch.
Witch is fantastic.
But what's the worst?
Hereditary is great.
Lighthouse.
Midsommar.
I haven't seen Midsommar.
It's great.
But my least favorite, and it's probably going to surprise you.
Terrifying.
Tyler!
You have to keep that in the podcast.
This is a
now.
professional environment.
I know.
Tyler!
God, I'm like right in the trajectory of that too.
Yeah, you are. You had your legs open.
Yeah.
It's like a sniper
Tyler!
rifle.
I needed to make sure you could hear it.
Tyler!
Anyway.
Both of you!
My least favorite is probably Paranormal Activity.
The first one?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you see the fourth one? Because that one was bad.
Well, that's part of it. Is I don't like...
You can't judge the first one based off of what the next ones did.
No. I know. But I didn't even like the first one. It was
Not even
so...
a little bit?
No, it was so, like...
Not even a smidgen?
It was so gimmicky.
What about the first Saw?
And so, that one... It's alright. But, again, it's the same deal. It's like... It's just... it's gratuitous. So, for Saw, it's just gratuitous violence and, like... I don't know. It's creepy to think about, and if I had to say any of them are good, it's it's definitely the first Saw, but I just don't really love that. I don't know, like
Paranormal Activity.
In Paranormal Activity,
Is it the found footage aspect you don't like?
It's a little bit the found footage aspect,
What
but
about-
one of my favorite horror movies is Cloverfield,
What about Blair Witch?
and I like Blair Witch.
Okay.
So I don't know.
You just didn't like the
You're
writing?
just a dick.
Scares?
I didn't think it was.
They made it for $6,000.
I didn't think the scary.
How dare you?
I didn't think it was scary. I didn't think. Now, obviously, there are definitely horror movies that are much worse.
Right.
For sure. But I just.
You hate how successful this one was?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
It was, it's just gimmicky and not very scary.
Well, I loved it.
I also hate, what is it, Unfriended?
Oh my
yeah,
god.
of course you do. That was a bad movie.
Well, yeah, but again, I hate movies that pick a gimmick and then that gimmick is like the only thing that they rely on. A movie that has a good gimmick but doesn't just like rely on it. It's hard to explain, I guess.
My favorite part of Unfriended is how the whole movie takes place on a computer screen, and then the end ends with the scary ghost pushing the computer screen down.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so it was a camera set up in front of a computer screen this whole time?
Yeah, I guess.
I thought we were doing a screen grab in QuickTime Pro.
But what I was going to say is The Descent.
Descent was good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a movie that used its gimmick really, really well. The gimmick being it's super claustrophobic, spelunky cave monsters.
That sounds rad.
It's terrifying.
Really?
But then
cool.
Unfriended is just like, oh, isn't it spoopy that music screen grab?
The thing
Wow,
that
is
bugged
that a
me the
glitch or is it real?
Yeah, and there's a bunch of, oh, well, the actor messed up his line here, so we're just going to glitch his camera and call it a cut.
Exactly.
There's a lot of dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
I did
I also hated Slender Man, but that's just a bad movie.
Well, okay, so
I didn't see
Slender
it.
Man the movie, sure, but Marble Hornets is good.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Marble Hornets was good.
What?
Tribe 12 was a close second. And then what was the other big one?
I don't remember.
Everyman Hybrid was also pretty good, but that one is going for I think it's still going. If I remember, like it's gone too long now, and I'm not gonna keep watching it.
I love Cloverfield for the ARG that took place around it.
Was there an ARG?
What's an ARG?
It's like the biggest
alternate reality game.
Augmented reality game, I thought.
I'm pretty sure.
Tyler, stop!
Ass.
Stop! This is a professional environment.
Since when?
So there's
a microphone.
equipment.
There's a microphone arm strapped to my TV stand, which is also a desk.
What are you talking about? We're in our studio.
Yeah.
If I had another fart loaded up, I would have let it go.
And this episode is
Tyler.
brought to you by Squarespace. Do you need to go to squarespace.com/midnight to get your first month free and your free domain with the purchase of 3 months. That one was fake.
What was I saying? I don't remember.
Worst horror movie?
No, well, yeah, but...
What was the topic?
What was I saying in particular?
Descent?
You're talking about Descent.
Then you farted.
No. You were saying something and then I farted.
That's right. And you ruined it yourself.
Yeah. Huh.
Can't put that one on me.
No, I'm not trying to. I just can't remember.
The worst horror movie I ever saw.
Yeah, I was going to defer to you.
So I had a roommate back in college named Emma, and she was an absolute delight. She really enjoyed kitschy and or terrible things in like an ironic sort of sense, but also a non-ironic sense. Mm-hmm. She loved to thrift shop for sweaters that were just absolutely disgusting to look at. She would buy, like, for example, we went to a place called Confusion Hill, which is up in the Redwood Coast, and it's just like one of those like off the side of the road type of like quote-unquote amusement parks. Mm-hmm. But when you show up, it's just like it was a bunch of Confusion Hill in particular was just a bunch of like weird like physics tricks, like this water's flowing upward, how's that happening?
I've been to places like that.
You know what I'm talking about?
I've been to the Mystery Spot in Northern California.
Yeah,
That's the exact same thing.
Right. So we went which is actually Confusion Hill is what Gravity Falls is based off of.
So it's the cool one.
Yeah, so I went and they had a big Bill statue.
That's really, really cool.
Oh,
it
that's
was
pretty
really
neat.
rad.
That's
it was
cool.
really cool. But anyway, so she loved to buy just stupid stuff like that. When we went to Confusion Hill, I bought a shirt that's really tacky. You've seen it before. It's like sort of tie-dye, sort of not. And it's got just like like a clip art picture of like undersea tropical fish. And I think it's the best shirt of all time. And she bought kittens with butterfly wings.
They're selling this at this like mystery location?
I'm telling you, it's the best place on earth. It's just really bizarre and weird, and they just sell random shit.
They would sell that at Gravity Falls, though.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fair.
just all stupid tourist crap.
Yeah.
But here's a Bigfoot footprint you can
The
hang on your
hairiest
wall.
man in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so she loved to do stuff like that, and one of her favorite things to do was to watch terrible, terrible, terrible movies. She would go on Amazon. She would sort the price low to high. She would look up any kind of genre, like horror, comedy, whatever. She really liked horror movies, and she would just click search, and then a bunch of movies would pop up that were either free or 99 cents that people had created themselves, filmed, and then put on Amazon to be purchased and watched, right? And like all the comments and the ratings would be like, 5 stars, I love this movie, it's so great. But it was clearly written by someone who made the movie.
The director looks like he worked really hard on this, and you guys need to stop being mean to him.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was great, because every once in a while she'd be like, Kitt, I found this movie. It's about zombie sharks. And I would be like, okay, great, let's watch it. You know? And it was just stuff like that. And we watched this movie that I will never forget called Jezebeth. The tagline for the movie is, there is no God, there is only Jezebeth. And let me read you the description, because it's actually phenomenal. In the movie itself, it begins with your typical, like, there's music playing and, like, credits are going by. And you're like, okay, whatever, like, I guess most movies do that. They have some form of that, right?
Yeah.
It's an intro.
Like pro roll credits or something.
That goes on for, I'm not kidding, like 8 minutes. 8 minutes of just, like, bad metal and, like, credits rolling by and, like, B shots of cemeteries and trees and the sky. And
Tarantino run for his money on the...
And so, that being said, I just recently read this because I was going to talk about it, but in the description it says, Jezebeth is more than a horror film. It is a musical experience, unlike any movie ever made. A cult horror film loaded with visuals and sound that can be enjoyed over and over again. In the attic of her ancestral home, Jezebeth, at war with God, unwittingly discovers a 19th century diary that details the summoning of a demon, after which all hell breaks loose. So anyway...
So wait, she's at war with God before she finds the demon?
Yeah, she's
Does
like...
that just mean she's like an atheist?
No, she's just like some punk bitch who's just like really mean to
I think that's
everyone all
funny
the
because
time.
that's one of the rare instances where you meant that. She is a punk
Yes!
bitch.
Yes!
Not a punk bitch. Like, she is a punk rock bad woman.
Yes, she's super just like
At
mean to
war
her
with
sister
God.
and like just kind of a cunt all around, and then she finds this diary and like the devil takes over her and is like, oh, all right, this one's already dead, sweet, like I don't really have to do anything. And she just, it's so bad. There's a scene where she's like running through a cemetery, she trips and falls and her pants fall down below her ass, so like her ass is hanging out. She gets up, continues to run, and they just keep the scene that way.
Wait,
with her ass out. Her ass is out the entire time, and she's
still down?
her pants are still
and she
down.
continues running.
And she's running around this cemetery. A vampire comes and bites her on the ass at one point. It's...
Well, you know what they say, if you set up a gun in the first act, you gotta use it in the third.
You can't have a vampire and a bare ass in a movie.
It's just a clusterfuck of, like, different... I don't know, like a bunch of stupid shit. It's possible that I'm mixing up a couple of really bad horror movies that we watched, but it's also so bad that it's like completely reasonable for all of the things that I'm thinking to have occurred. So she also has a guitar solo in the movie that's not preceded by absolutely anything. She's just taken over by the devil.
The axe.
She pulls out a guitar from nowhere and starts wailing on the guitar really fakely, where her hand is completely stiff and it's going up and down. And there's like a sick guitar solo in the background, and it just spins around her for, again, like 8 minutes.
So the guy who directed this is probably like a budding metal musician. And wanted publicity because...
That's probably him doing the guitar solo.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the music itself, or there wasn't enough to like garner him fame.
I gotta trick people into listening to my music.
No, exactly. I'm serious. That's
promising them vampire ass.
That's probably also why there was an 8-minute credits with probably his metal playing.
Oh no, it would be fantastic if it was like, let's say his name's Andy Johnson, and it was like directed by Andy Johnson, and then like edited by Andy Johnson, produced by... You know that thing that film students do where they give themselves like 12 credits at the end?
Yeah.
I would love if that was how that pro roll credit sequence goes.
It was directed by Damien Dante and produced by Damien Dante.
Yes.
Edited? I don't know. I wish I could see the credits.
I hope he did like all the post-production.
But remembering the name Damien Dante, I sincerely remember like being like, this is a Damien Dante film of Damien Dante Productions. Like, you know what I mean?
Damien Dante sounds like a guy that would make a movie where a girl gets bitten on the ass by a vampire.
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard to look at the customer reviews. But
I got another one that's up there with my least favorite horror movies of all time.
Oh, tell us.
You just reminded me. Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Haven't seen it. Wasn't interested.
They're so bad.
I mean, Rob Zombie's like this weird, like, how come everybody knows who he is, but like nobody can recommend anything from him? Like,
I don't know.
Well, he's like McG.
Who's that?
Who, what?
Oh, never mind then.
I feel
Guess
like
he isn't.
I feel like Rob Zombie set out to get an EGOT.
Yeah.
Didn't get one like as a coincidence. He was like, I'm gonna get an EGOT. And has been steadily trying to do that. I can't wait for his film or for his play.
Tell me.
Kitt, I just wanted to say that I love that how you continually are able to remain silent for most of the like conversation in a podcast, and then when you finally speak up, you bring up the most batshit crazy thing. that
Sorry.
occupies conversation for the next 15 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Because it's just so batshit crazy and awesome.
It's good. That's good radio.
No, seriously. It's like, yeah, fucking...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anybody could talk about The Conjuring for the 50th time, but how many people are talking about the
The 99-cent film on Amazon,
Exactly.
Jezebel.
No,
Yeah.
you're right.
By Damien Dante.
Damien
and also
Dante
Damien
production.
Dante. And also Damien
A Damien Dante written, produced, and directed by.
Yes.
It's
I-
true art.
I wanna watch it with you guys, but also I don't want to put myself through that again. You know what I'm
Right.
talking
Yeah,
about?
I was going to say when you brought that up is like, I think that's a totally valid thing to enjoy. Watching movies that are bad.
But
I
just-
personally, there's so much good stuff I haven't seen yet
Right.
Yeah.
that I can't bring myself. That's like, I haven't seen The Room in long enough that I can't remember really what happens.
Right.
But I will probably never watch it again because there's way too many good things that
You
I
just
actually
don't need to
wanna watch.
subject yourself to that more than once.
Exactly.
I
yeah.
feel bad watching the Damien Dante film, knowing in the back of my head I still haven't seen Godfather Part 2.
Or The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Like, so, like, I completely think there's absolute merit to watching things that are so bad that they're fun.
Right.
And I'm not trying to hate on people who do that.
No.
Let people enjoy what they enjoy. Myself, I just, like, Jack Ryan Season 2 just came out, and I
Gotcha.
want to watch that.
Yeah.
So,
Emma was such a funny breed because she loved all that stupid stuff that was like, I don't know, she would bring home something from the thrift store that was just like, this is a turtle with a top hat on and I love him. And I'd be like, what? And she's displaying it and framing it. And like, you know what I mean? She was just one of those people who just loved garbage.
she
and
sounds whimsical as hell.
She was great. She was a really funny
Zoe
person.
Deschanel.
A little bit.
She was a very like, this is my college roommate, Emma.
Yeah.
kind of person. You
Sure,
know? Like,
sure. Hi,
She's
Emma.
great.
Hope you're doing good.
Hi, Emma. I don't know if you'd be listening to this. I don't know why you would.
It's sinfully fun.
Stop.
Is that Lucy Liu banging a dude?
Is it Lucy Liu?
It is on CBS All Access, and she gave him all access.
Taylor,
he-
don't dab. Taylor,
He double dabbed.
ew, I hate it.
Well,
That's the scariest thing I've seen on TV.
I was gonna say to wrap up, what is your favorite horror movie of the last like 2-3 years?
Oh God.
And what horror movie coming up are you most excited for?
Oh,
All right, you might have to cut out some dead air on the podcast.
Sounds
'cause
good.
I've got
Parasite. I'm excited for.
Parasite was fantastic, and now that you mention it, that might be my answer, but let me double check real quick.
I know. I just mentioned to you the other day a horror movie that I saw that you agreed with me on, where we were like, "Oh, that might be our favorite of most recently," or was it you? It was someone.
Good job. Good job, Kitt. My favorite of recent memory, I'm thinking no longer back than the last like 5 years.
So, say 2014 and newer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would probably be either.
Oh, A Quiet Place.
That was good. Would either be the new Suspiria.
Okay.
Or Get Out.
I've heard Get Out is very good.
Would be.
Can we
See, I
watch-
can't watch the vampire movie and still not have seen Get Out.
Yes, gotcha. Yes, the demon
Yeah.
rocker.
You guys haven't seen that yet. We can watch that today if you want.
Can we watch it today?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a little bit of a deep cut. It is from 2008, but it is not very well known. It's called Let the Right One In. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
I believe, a Swedish film about a 12-year-old that befriends a vampire.
Okay.
But it's like a horror film. Like, the vampire is a vampire in, like, the vampire sense.
Wait, but they're friends?
But they're friends, and the vampire doesn't hurt the girl. But, like, the girl sees the vampire kill, like, adult men around town.
And she doesn't give a fuck?
Well, she is like, I like this vampire.
Okay.
It's very good.
Yeah.
There's this fantastic scene. I only saw it, I think, in 2015, so I'm calling it a new film.
Sure. Sure.
New to you.
New to me. There's this, and it's all subtitled, and it really feels like just this weird movie that came out. And there's this scene at the I hate to like spoil it.
That's okay.
That's okay.
There's a scene at the end where it's in this they're in this indoor swimming pool area.
Okay.
And the vampire, like, they're being chased by, I think, if I remember right, it's been a minute since I've seen it, but they're being chased by these, like, the local police, because people have been dying around town. And that's something police get involved in. And the vampire, like, just brutally and unapologetically is taking them all out. Like, this entire police squad.
Like Tarantino style?
Not quite like that. Like a
Like
lot
number
of like
five in
they're
the diner
walking
style?
in, and then like the guy in the back gets lifted up into the ceiling, and
Oh,
no one can see where he
shit.
is, and it's brutal, and it's so good, and it's a story about friendship.
All right. Okay.
Are you willing to forgive your friend's flaws?
Yeah.
Even if it means they're killing innocent people
We keep
to
you
feed
around.
their I don't kill people to feed my bloodlust.
Well.
Most of the time. Only in the spoopy time. Because
Recently.
All right, I have a therapist. Idiot.
Well, I had a therapist.
I had a therapist for a minute.
What happened to your therapist?
Well, they started saying I was, like, not getting better.
And
And then they cut funding, and you said, "I'm sorry, Arthur. This is the last
And then
time."
I said, I'm just like a dog chasing cars. I don't know what I'd ever do if I caught one.
just keep smiling.
And then I went on to this talk show.
This has been Midnight Masterminds. Thank you so much for joining us.
And
We're all clowns.
That's Taylor.
we live in a society
That's
where
Tyler.
my name is Tyler.
And I'm Kitt.
And I'm a clown.
Bye now.
That's not really where we're ending it.
No. Now we're ending it. This has been Midnight Masterminds.
You should end it where you say we're not actually ending it there.
And it.
Do you guys have any horror podcasts you enjoy?
I love
The
My
Dead Meat
Favorite Murder.
Podcast.
I like Small Town Murder. Those are both really
Those
good.
are true crime.
Serialized fiction.
It's still frightening, and My Favorite Murder deals a lot with like send in your ghost stories and stuff like that.
The Dead Meat Podcast is my favorite.
What is that one? Is that
Well,
a
that's
review thing,
that's
or-
Dead Meat James from the YouTube
Oh,
channel
yeah.
Dead Meat, and his now fiance Chelsea.
Ooh.
Yeah, good for them. But his channel is my favorite horror thing, like period.
Wow.
Because it's like, I love the movies that he covers, but thanks to him, I have gained such a greater appreciation for the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to hate horror movies.
Really?
'Cause I used to
Get
think
out.
they were mostly bad, and they just made me feel sad.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
just realized, thanks to his podcast, or his YouTube show, that there are a lot, I just needed to find the ones that I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Is
spooky.
it, then
not
after,
in your
like,
face.
because I start, Brian also, who's on the podcast every once in a while and does other screenplay things.
It's been a while.
Since he was on a show, yeah, you're right. But he is a big horror fan.
Mm-hmm.
And hanging out with him in college got me to start appreciating horror a little bit more. But then I fully started to really appreciate when I started to watch Dead Meat. And what he does is he just counts the kills in horror movies, and does little like behind the scenes tidbits and recaps and all that. It's really good. I really, really like him. But yeah, I just realized that it's like any genre. Like movies are so like varied and eclectic that
Yeah.
you can really it's impossible to write off an entire genre
Like, for horror.
for of an entire genre. Like, we're talking
Yeah.
the major genres like horror, comedy, action, and
Jungle.
jungle.
The 4 movie.
The four movies. But you get what I mean. It's like, it's impossible to say I will never like a horror movie.
Right.
It's impossible to say I will never like a comedy. It's impossible to say I will never like an action movie. There are so many movies that the odds of you literally never finding one in a certain genre that you like are very, 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 very low.
Low to...
You
no.
have to be the highest level of curmudgeon.
Yeah, you have to be an ass.
Total ass.
Yeah.
Some would say a whole ass.
Yes.
Back to podcast.
But I guess moral of the story is, I really, really appreciate the genre now. I used to never really like it, and I really think that horror, more so than a lot of other genres, has the ability to like the threshold from shithouse to awesome is so vast.
Yeah.
But that's because it's capable of such goodness. Because like, you know, people are at their best or worst when they're being spoopled. And
or spoopled.
Yeah. And I think that it's part of why the genre is such good movies like Silence of the Lambs and Your Conjurings, and such bad movies like Darkness Falls, Countdown, and Vampire Bite on Butt.
Darkness Falls is not at the same level as Countdown.
Oh, it's not as bad?
Darkness Falls it's dumb, but like it's not incompetent like Countdown is.
Okay, I got you.
They had professionals working on it, and they did their best. And Countdown, I question that.
Yeah, gotcha. Anyway, Kitt raised her hand.
Can I ask a sort of personal question?
Sure.
You said when people are being spoopled, it sort of brings out either the best or the worst in them, correct?
Yeah.
When I was getting spoopled at the Queen Mary in all those mazes, what did you think was happening to me?
I was really annoyed.
Yes, of course. Well, I knew that.
Because not to put you on blast on the show.
I literally asked you to.
But we spent money to go to the Queen Mary, known to be spoople and full of maze. And
I didn't know it was mazes.
And Kitt gets there and she's like, "Oh wait, this is spoople and full of maze? Oh no, I shall not participate." And then I was worried that I was gonna not be able to hang out with my girlfriend all night, so I got a little annoyed.
Out of curiosity, what is your ideal Halloween event?
I really loved the haunted hayride that we went to, and that was the reason. So
Griffith Park hayride, by the way.
I purchased the Griffith Park hayride way before I ever knew that we were going to the Queen Mary.
It was a spontaneous thing. Brian was like, "Hey, let's go to the Queen Mary this week."
I see.
And we were like, "Okay," and we went.
And I said, "What is it?" And I was given answers that were along the lines of like, it's just like a spooky thing they do in the Queen Mary. There's like, you know, spooky people walking around, but you can also do like, there's like rides and stuff. It's fun, a couple mazes. So I was like, okay, cool. Sounds to me like there are events that are going on that are Halloween themed and mazes that I don't need to necessarily participate in, which sounds a lot like the Griffith Park Haunted Hayride situation, which is what I initially purchased. Because my ideal Halloween thing is like, immerse yourself in a Halloween town-like environment and enjoy the theme of the season. The spooples. Without getting...
Like Beetlejuice versus watching The Conjuring.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I don't enjoy the adrenaline rush of getting frightened.
I see. But just watching it happen is like the swamp scene in the hayride.
Yeah.
Is that like you're just watching a scary thing happen?
I'm watching a scary thing happen. Comes by and I like that it's immersive but not so in your face, because when you're in the maze, you're not in like a cart surrounded by other people. It's not like a ride. You're just out in the wild of the situation, and I don't like...
See, that's interesting.
The fact that I can't defend myself, don't like...
So I agree with that. The can't defend myself thing is the worst for me when I'm in those mazes.
But when the option for me is taken away, because it's like, this is clearly a safe thing that we're doing, we're all in the same, you know, cart that's getting driven around as you like look at all the different scenes. There's no need to defend yourself because you're all safe here. I enjoy that. But when I feel like I'm in a situation where I need to defend myself, and I can't... I just hit this level of like extreme upset.
See, that's interesting to me because I do worse. I was more stressed out on the hayride because I couldn't I didn't have the ability to make myself aware of everything I needed to make myself aware of.
Because your back was to one
Because
side
my back,
of it.
by design, had to be to like 40% of where the scares were coming from. Whereas in a maze, I have control of what my environment, so I can look wherever I need to know when something's coming.
The situation was definitely what hurt the hayride
the
most.
And it was great. It was fantastic. The effects were great, and the spooples were good.
I think if they had like 80% of the people on the hayride, that would give everyone a little extra room to twist
instead
around.
of just no middle row, just Just
there you go.
Just
No
the
middle
2
row.
rows.
Just the 2 rows.
But
So
then,
people- yeah.
you got to get people through the line.
Yeah, you gotta get. Yeah.
Admittedly, there weren't that many people there when we went, though,
True.
so
True.
maybe
So
they
I
could
don't
have
understand
lightened
the
up.
packed.
But yeah, then just so later on that night, because we at first didn't think that we had the pass that let us go through the mazes.
Yeah.
Then we found out we did.
Yeah.
So Taylor and I went through some maze while Kitt ate a cinnamon pretzel, and
They were a little light.
yeah, they were. But I think it's because it was late, and a lot of the horror actors were.
There were a lot of things where I'm like, I feel like an actor is supposed to be there, but they're not.
Yeah,
Like when we walked into the bathroom and there's a bathtub with a curtain that's like half open, and I'm like, I feel like an
Someone's
actor's
supposed
supposed
to
to
be
be in there,
yeah.
like undoing the curtain
Yeah.
as people walk by.
And that somewhat negatively affected the experience.
And then like the first maze we did, like the entire second half of it was just environmental.
Mhm.
There was no actors in the
Yeah.
second half of it.
It was a completely blacked out maze that you had to feel your way around
With strobe lights
with
occasionally.
strobe lights flashing every once in a while.
Can I tell you another crazy thing about me?
What's sure?
See, that I would love because I love fun houses. I love when there's no actors and it's a scary situation that
we
you
didn't
just
know
have to
there
live
were
Well,
with.
we didn't know there were
actors.
no actors until we were
I was
out. You
expecting
would have
them.
been stressed the fuck. You would have been stressed the fuck out.
I probably would have. You're right.
Yeah.
And
And then
then
it
maybe if we had gone through again, maybe the actors that are in that section were on break when we went through.
yeah, maybe. But then we went. Then that one ends with these two those blow up things those.
Like inflatable bounce houses.
Yeah, it was like a tunnel made on both sides of those that was not wide enough for you to go through without being encroached upon
Really
by a balloon.
squeezed.
So I was uncomfortable at that.
Yeah.
And then they did another claustrophobic thing in the next maze we did. They made in like a morgue, like the little
They
cubbies.
roll the
The
bodies out.
freezer. The body freezer.
the body freezer. Well, they had one of those that you had to that they made someone crawl through.
You could climb through it, or you could walk around it.
Yeah, and they had that option because it was also because it would have taken a long time to send every single person through
Yeah.
there one at a time.
Yeah.
So
Even the 5 people in front of us caused such a bottleneck that we ended up just walking
we just
around.
walked around, but that kind of shit freaks me out. I'm
Yeah.
pretty claustrophobic at times, so that kind of thing freaks me out, and I like that. But I was more comfortable at the idea of than the maze because that was literally just happening to me. I couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? In a maze, you can pretty much see where people are coming from, and granted that was still available in the hayride. I want to point out the hayride didn't really scare me.
No.
No.
It was
But
just
it was fun.
It surprised me at times.
it was just more stressy than going through a maze for me.
Yeah.
For me.
I'm pretty sure one guy missed his cue because on
Yeah.
one side the guy came out and then it was 5 to 10 seconds before the other guy came
And then
out.
by the time he came out, the hayride
The
was
hayride was moving again.
moving
Yeah,
again.
right,
So
yeah.
he had to chase
Are
after
you talking
everyone.
about the werewolf in the tree? Because
Yeah.
that guy came out super delayed.
Yeah.
He came out after everybody was looking behind the
Also, that
thing.
Yeah.
one scene where he had the woman that he slits her throat and he's like, "Feast my minions," and one guy comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, hey. I do think that we came when a lot of the actors had called off sick
They
or
must
were
have,
out
yeah.
or whatever.
It felt very light.
It was November 1st. It was yesterday.
Second.
So it was second. So it was yesterday. So
Yeah.
it was Halloween weekend was over.
That rock and roll horror band was real dope.
That was
though.
probably the coolest thing I saw.
They had another show. Remember how they said they'd come back at 9:30? So
Yeah.
that was around the time I was getting my cinnamon pretzel, and I saw their other show, and it was fucking lit. It was awesome. They had. Do you remember when we were at the escape room and we saw the green room that was right next to all the escape rooms? So we kept seeing monsters walk inside there and then come out looking like normal people.
Yeah.
Well, one of the ladies that we saw walk in there was this prom queen who had just this hideous fucking
Yeah.
witch face.
Yeah.
She was part of the rock and roll show, and she was like, "Oh my God, Midnight Falls, thank you so much for picking me." It was really funny. She was like, "I'm so happy I'm your Halloween queen." It was really hilarious.
It's I love this time of year because it's a pretty much constant celebration from September 25th
All the months
all
that
the way-
end in
Yeah.
Ember are lit.
all the way through January 5th.
It just kind of rules because it's your birthday in late August, and then it's my birthday in September, and then it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Mm.
Oh, you forgot Memorial Day.
And I think Veterans Day is happening.
When's your birthday again, Taylor?
June 28th.
Yeah.
I never got to have a school birthday.
Me neither.
That's funny.
Did you? You were right there at the beginning.
I am. So it was either like, well, especially because where I was living, school started in September rather than August most of the time.
Yeah.
I think in like high school was finally when I started going in August, but that was like within like a nationwide like school schedule change where they shortened summer.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is get it closer to like the college schedule where you finish the semester before you go on winter break.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going on winter break for 2 weeks and then coming back, it's like, all right, it's test time.
Yeah, do all your finals.
Which is the worst.
Yeah, it is the worst. But so anyway, so I had a lot of like, school's gonna start tomorrow, or like, because my birthday also falls on Labor Day weekend. So I always get a 3-day weekend on my birthday.
Ooh.
But also school. Sometimes.
Right.
That was another thing too for me, like whenever my birthday was rolling around, I was like, man, happy birthday to me. School's starting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Now I love it because
I'm
not in school
Fuck
anymore.
School.
And
Fuck
my whole
education.
life is labor in being in a place that I don't want to be for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Like Frank Sinatra once said, that's life.
Ain't that a kick in the head?
It's Dean Martin.
I know.
What? Is it?
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
And then by that horrifying turn of events of us confusing Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin.
We're like, Scream, Martin.
This has been the Midnight...
Frank Sinister Racha.
I think it could go with just Frank Sinatra.
Oh no. I guffed it. Bye.
Dean Scarton.
The Splat Pack.
Oh god.
I like that, actually.
Thank you.
But anyway, this has been the Spooples episode of Midnight Masterminds for 2019. We'll catch you later on this week for...
Lighthouse.
Lighthouse, Parasite.
Yeah, mostly Lighthouse.
It's
like an 80-20 split. Lighthouse, others.
Lighthouse, Parasite.
Parasite was very good. I'm excited to talk about that one.
Jojo Rabbit.
Adam's Family.
Maybe Maleficent.
The
Maybe
new
Maleficent.
one.
Oh, the Zombieland Double Tap. Which, yeah. Don't expect us to spend a whole lot of time talking about some of these, and do expect us to spend a whole lot of time talking about Lighthouse and Parasite and Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit.
But anyway, I've been Tyler, your spoopful MC.
Ghost host.
Yeah, the ghost host with the mostest.
Most host.
Yeah. Kitt's been eating a watermelon.
And I am your doom